G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for watching the Wildkard Rugby Show. Like, comment, and subscribe. And yes, you are here today because it's time to read some rugby news. And first up, I would like to just kiss my own ass a little bit for being an absolute genius of a rugby league pundit. I know, I deserve a job in rugby league. That's just how good I am. So yes, here's my prediction for the rugby league state of origin last night. And, yes. So, I'm talking about the Blues' new coach here.
Right?
Yeah.
And he has made the bold decision to sack the Australian captain. Where did he get that idea from? I don't know. He's a bit of a genius, I guess. And, James Tedesco, that is. And, he also decided to hire the future of the Wallabies. Where did he get that idea from? I don't know. Just saying. The future of the Wallabies, Joseph Suaalii, to play in the State of Origin series. Now, a lot of people are not happy about this, obviously.
Yeah, let's go to.
And who was playing a fullback? We'll see in my prediction. Yes. So we will see.
Sorry, my prediction here.
In my prediction, easy win for the Reds. Easy win for the Queenslanders.
And sure enough, the $6 million future investment, grassroots investment, I guess, on Joseph Suaalii, the superstar, finally getting his first opportunity to play a State of Origin. Oh my goodness, he's grown up, Dad. And he was sent off in 7 minutes for this tackle. Yeah. I mean, rugby league is much more lenient when it comes to these high tackles and dangerous plays, especially at State of Origin. They literally made it very clear publicly that instead of Origin games, they want to reduce the threshold on these penalties just to make it entertaining for the fans. And that is still way too much for rugby league. He was sent off for the entire game and leading to a massive blowout. Historic blowout win for the Queenslanders. Just beautiful. My prediction, exact what I thought was going to happen. Hey, if you have a head coach that's taking, coaching advice, taking coaching ideas out of Eddie Jones' playbook, what did you expect was going to happen? What did you fucking expect? Anyway, moving on to something more serious, right? And that is, last week I have reported here that the New Zealanders and the South Africans are going to have a tour, a rugby tour every 4 years. And initially I thought this was a good idea, but then later on I really had to think about this. I thought this was a little bit too much rugby for that particular year. And I think the timing of the tour is not right, and the number of games that have been played is just a little bit too much, because in 2026, there's also a global rugby tournament that's introduced by Rugby Australia. So the tour itself consists of 4 test matches. The tournament, depends on how the teams are eliminated, how the pools are drawn, could potentially see a 5th match between the South Africans and the All Blacks. And I just think that's way too much. 3 test matches, it's already like perfect. It's like the perfect number, right? Somehow they decided to go for the fourth game, based on my own experience watching 4 Bloods World Cup games. It's not really interesting, to be honest. You after the 3rd game, the 4th game is just almost a waste of time. And then this could be a 5th game between the 2 teams. I mean, my goodness, that's a lot of rugby between 2 teams in 1 year. My suspicion is that the shareholders at Silver Lake, at the All Blacks, and maybe even the shareholders at the South African at the Springboks wants to exit this hold, and that's why they wanted to have a massive revenue boost going into the Rugby World Cup. You have this tour and then Rugby World Cup the next year, so this is gonna be a massive injection of revenue, and they're gonna be quickly trying to offload their shares to make their money back. That's my suspicion of why this is happening. But if you really think about it, it's not like a Lions tour at all. In the Lions tour, the 2 teams don't play each other for 12 years, all right? And then you play each other in a series, long series, which is great, right? Everybody's hungry for it. But these 2 teams already play each other twice a year. To play 2 additional games once every 4 years, it's just not really something that is, that has a marginal, that the benefit is really marginal in that situation. So I really don't think this is a good idea financially. Especially in the long run, but I think it's a way that the shareholders going to quickly try to exit the position and get the money back. So yeah, anyway, let's go talk about the Melbourne Rebels. So officially, the Melbourne Rebels has been rejected the license to operate next year by Rugby Australia. They have been proposed, there was a proposal that a consortium has come in to save the team, and Rugby Australia rightfully rejected the consortium's proposal, and it was a massive red flag. I knew this was a massive red flag just reading at it, weeks in advance, because the proposal from the consortium really looked at saving the current management, paying out the current management. That's like one of the key aspects of the whole proposal, is to pay out the current management and the current employees before the merger. So like even Rugby Australia obviously not gonna take that, and also the proposal after the so-called merger between Melbourne Rebels and Western Melbourne, I think it's a football club in Western Melbourne, it's there not to really save the club, it's there to save the management as well. So big red flags out of the Rugby Australia has cited out of the proposal is that, number one, the financial projections for this so-called merger, it's gonna exceed, make the local area, Wyndham, where the club will be positioned in, the growth of the population will exceed Canberra in like a very short period to actually, make this revenue projection possible from 2 million to 9.8 million. So it's not possible to do that in a little place like Wyndham. So that's like extremely, optimistic financial projections. And number two, the consortium members were not disclosed. So it could literally be the same management that is currently running the Melbourne Rebels as part of the consortium. Number three, the key advisors included at least one current or former director at the Melbourne Rebels. Need more to say? It's there to save the management. It's not there to save the team. It's not there to service the fans. It's there to save their own management. And just, big red flags. And I think the Rugby Australia made the right decision to reject this proposal. Now, in case you didn't know how this whole thing kind of blown up a little bit, right? So after this proposal is rejected, the consortium has decided they want to sue Rugby Australia for declining the license. And you can tell these people are just absolute fucking cancer, right? So just go back a little bit to explain to you what is actually happening. So the consortium, right? So the Melbourne Rebels was hiding their taxes, hiding their earnings for 6 years. And this was discovered earlier this year by the by the Consumers Affairs of Victoria, which did an investigation into it and found all these losses under their books, which was $23 million, including $11.5 million of unpaid taxes, right? So the tax office is currently looking at holding the directors accountable for the taxes personally. So that is pretty bad stuff out of the current management. And the people that is currently in management, right? Just want to bring this up so you can know that what's actually happening behind the scenes, right? The people, so this guy, Leah Clifford, said that he's going to sue the Rugby Australia, right, for not accepting the consortium's offer, right? So that's the people that are suing Rugby Australia, right? His own daughter was on the board at the Melbourne Rebels. Was at the board at the Melbourne Rebels. Of course, right? And the Melbourne Rebels, in their administration, had a person called Paul Docherty. This guy had a history of running businesses into administration or liquidation. How the fuck is this guy in Rebels in the first place? Why wouldn't you expect the business to fail when you have someone that has a history of failing businesses running the business? And these are the people that want to get together and sue Rugby Australia. And this moron, the daughter of Leah Clifford, right? This absolute moron has the balls to come out and say that they're suing Rugby Australia because they did not honor the promised funding committed to Melbourne Rebels, which led to the failing of Melbourne Rebels. And let me remind you guys, okay, how much Rugby Australia has committed to helping the Melbourne Rebels. The Victoria Sports Minister had a deal, had basically come out and clarified that they're extremely disappointed because the end of this Melbourne Rebels franchise means there's an end to the partnership that currently exists between Rugby Australia and the Victoria government, which is, as part of the deal, the Victoria government will try to save the Rebels. As part of the deal, Rugby Australia will bring sporting events to Melbourne, like the Bledisloe Cup, like Super Round. If you're ever wondering why those events were going there every year, it's because Rugby Australia is trying to save the Rebels by bringing in the extra fundings from the Victorian government. Yes, and the big money that Rugby Australia had promised the Victorian government is the Rugby World Cup final at the MCG. Now that might not be going ahead because of this Melbourne Rebels deal going under. So for this absolute fucking moron, right, Georgia Windup, to say that Rugby Australia did not support the Rebels is an absolute fucking lie. Like, they did everything they fucking could, including at the cost of all developing all the other, key markets. The Bledisloe Cup hasn't gone to Brisbane for over 4 years, hasn't come to Sydney for over 4 years. All these massive losses in key markets to try to support the Rebels, and this fucking moron has the balls to come out and say they didn't support the Rebels and they want to sue the Rebels. So yes, hopefully Rugby Australia run these people into the ground with lawyer fees, and my God, so glad the cancer is finally being cut out of the system. And yes, let's move on. So it's not completely rainbows and sunshine in New Zealand as well. As we talked about this, I think a couple of weeks ago now, there was a proposal for basically New Zealand Rugby did a internal review on their business, and the report came out. The report, so-called Pilkington report, basically came out last year and said that the current business model, current structure of New Zealand Rugby is not fit for purpose in the modern environment. And that proposal, so they have proposed some changes in the governance in New Zealand Rugby. One of the changes in governance in New Zealand Rugby is to have a full independent board being reinstalled into New Zealand Rugby, right? And this proposal, so-called Proposal 1, was rejected this week or last week by the New Zealand provincial rugby unions, because there's a bit of a war between the unions and the Players Association with control over New Zealand Rugby. So in the new proposal, Proposal 2, instead of having a fully independent board members, the so-called provincial unions wants to guarantee at least one member is from the provincial unions. So they won't have one of their own guy in the provincial unions. Now, this is completely rejected by the Players Association, and the Players Association has threatened that if this actually goes ahead, they're going to break away from New Zealand Rugby and form a new team, remake the All Blacks without the provincial unions. So I also explained this last week, right? Basically, why this is such a contentious point is because the whole Silver Lake deal was pushed through by the provincial unions because they want the money handout. They're like, we want the money. New Zealand Rugby is like, we're guaranteeing the provincial unions $1 million or something each. And the provincial unions basically said, sell the All Blacks, give us some money, or we're going to vote you guys out of office. Which is what the provincial union had the power to do that when that whole Silver Lake deal was pushed through. And this whole, changing governance is to try to wrangle some of that power back from the provincial unions. So they can't just come in and say, we need money again, New Zealand Rugby. Now please sell off another 5% of All Blacks, right? That's the whole premise of this deal, is to try to get money, try to get power back from the provincial unions, so they can't just take money and waste it all on whatever they want and then come back for more, and then threatens to fire the board members if they don't agree, right? So this is the whole fight here, and this is why the Players Association is so upset, because they don't want the provincial union to continue to hold that stranglehold on New Zealand Rugby whenever they want to shake them down for money. And yeah, so this is, the proposal 2 is now, the proposal 1 has been rejected. Proposal 2 is now being looked at. Who knows what's going to happen if proposal 2 gets actually accepted. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. A lot of players, former players, Richie McCaw, Sean Fitzpatrick, John Kerwin, they all came out and said the board members needs to be independent under proposal 1 and told the provincial unions to really take a step back and not push forward with their proposal. Yeah, so still a bit of a battle going on there. So anyway, let's go on to club rugby now. Quarterfinals coming up in Super Rugby this weekend. Chiefs versus the Reds, Hurricanes versus the Rebels, Blues versus the Fijian Endura, and Brumbies versus the Highlanders. And yeah, this will be a pretty good weekend of rugby. And, I think it's going to be pretty easy run for Hurricanes and the Blues, but Brumbies and the Reds game will be something to look out for, potential upsets there for those teams. And, the Crusaders has been eliminated out of the finals. I don't even know when was the last time they didn't make the finals, the Crusaders. And, yeah, this is, you'll have to go back to like the Super 15 times when it was really hard to make the finals, But yeah, it's, there's a lot of people coming out as to why, and you can tell, people actually don't know what they're talking about. Not starting Noah Hotham is the reason why the Crusaders didn't make it in the finals. Fergus Burke, injury tolls, oh my goodness, wow. Loose forward selections, and, if you think Levi Amor is the big signing for the Crusaders, really, you need to probably watch a little bit more New Zealand rugby to a little bit more New Zealand rugby to make that sort of comments. And anyway, so, the Crusaders themselves has decided to also hire Gangline Analytics to look into what happened. Why did our season fail? Come on, mate. I can tell you this for free, right? Rob Penny, your head coach. That's why your season failed, right? You don't have to pay. You can just how much you paying this Gangline Analytics? Just send me half of the money. Actually, send me a third of the money. All right, I just did the job for you. It's Rob Penny. You don't need, I saved you a lot of money there, Crusaders. You can thank me later. Anyway, we're moving on. So, Eddie Jones has named his first team for Japan. And in this announcement, he named 12 uncapped players. And he's talked about the same Eddie Jones rhetoric. We're building towards the future, mate. Oh, yeah, we're going to get into the semi-finals at the Rugby World Cup, mate. And, mate. Yeah, mate. Oh, yeah. Anyway, same old Eddie Jones shit. Building to the World Cup. It's literally the broken record at this point. He's been building to the World Cup under England. He's building towards World Cup, 2027 World Cup for Australia. And now he's building towards the 2027 World Cup for Japan, right? Which means he can lose every game leading up into the Rugby World Cup. And it's just building experience, guys. Just building experience. Building experience, mate. Building towards the future. Anyway, so a new foundation was formed last week. It's called, it's not a foundation. New charity is formed called the Global Rugby Players Foundation. And that is looking at helping players after they exit from the game to get on with their lives. So, some players obviously after exiting the game finding themselves without too much to do, not able to get, good jobs and stuff. So this whole foundation is there to look after that area of the game, of the player's life after they exit the playing career. I think it's really nice. I actually think that this should have been done not as a global scale, but more like a local scale, like here in Australia, something that I really want an Australian rugby to pursue. But hey, this is something that they're going to be doing in a local, in a world scale, in all the regions. I think it's good, save some money for Rugby Australia. But this is something that I actually really wanted to just have it locally for Australia for a very long time. I think that should be something we look forward to ages ago. Anyway, moving up, Kerwin Bosch has been shipped off to France. And yeah, so that's just a bit of news from South Africa. I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but we're moving on. So in the URC now, Munster has been also the finish on top of the URC table, which is really interesting. Go into the URC finals. So we've got the semi-finals, quarterfinals coming off the URC as well. We've got Munster against the Ospreys, Bulls versus Benetton, Leinster versus Ulster, Warrior versus Stormers. And yeah, will be interesting to see what happens, because Munster basically beating, finishing top of the URC means that they're going to have the final at home should they make it there. No matter who they're against, they're going to have the final game at home. So this is a massive advantage to the Munster side. And finally, I guess there's two more bit of news. And yeah, finally, the English Premiership also reached its finals this weekend. The semi-finals were played last week. They don't have quarterfinals. So in the semi-finals, the Saints beat the Saracens 22 points to 20. Owen Farrell send-off going to France out of this game. And then the other one is Bath has beaten the Sales Shark 31 points to 23. So the finals will be the Saints versus Bath this weekend, which is quite exciting. And finally, England also as well named a 33-man squad going into the June series. The first game will be against Eddie Jones at Twickenham, I believe. So they have named quite an inexperienced squad as well. The one guy that I thought was interesting that they left out is Ollie Lawrence is left out of the back line. Obviously, you know, Owen Farrell has not decided to opt out of international test matches at the moment. But yeah, Ollie Lawrence is left out, and I don't think he's injured. I looked him up. He's ready to play in the finals this weekend, or he was playing. So definitely not injured. So yeah, interesting decision there from Steve Borthwick in his selection. And also, what's his name? What's his name? Elliot Daly is left out as well. So yeah, interesting. But you know, the key players are here. Marcus Smith, Henry Slade is back in the squad. George Ford is here. And yeah, interesting. Both the Currys were there. And Dom Grant has been pretty good for Harlequins. And yeah, interesting selections. A lot of young faces. Maybe they'll shuffle up the game, change some of the players after the Japan game. But yeah, this is a training squad for, you know, at the moment for the England side. Anyway, let me know your thoughts, guys. Let me know your predictions in any of the semi-finals that's coming up, or the final in the Premiership. And thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys later this week for more reviews. Cheers.